Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grassroots Racer. This week we celebrate one of the most iconic races of the year, the Repco Bathurst 1000. It's like the grand final of racing for me, and I've never had the chance to go and see what a great race it is live, but I can't wait to watch it on TV. I thought I would bring you some Bathurst stories from my past guests who I've interviewed, and we'll also share with you my visit to Nankervis Performance Boats, where I was on the holidays. I hope everyone enjoys their Bathurst weekend this week. And remember, if you're racing, drive fast and take chances, safely, of course. Make sure you tune in again for next week for another great Grassroots Racer guest. And share, like, or subscribe to Flipping Mad Motorsport on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. Remember, guys, enjoy Bathurst. Hey everyone, today I'm at Nankervis Performance because today these guys helped me do my cylinder heads for my Formula V. And here's some footage to show you what their shop looks like in case you guys wanted to come in here, buy some boats parts or just some general aeroflow parts. These guys have been so good to me and, letting me come and do my own cylinder heads and teaching me so I can, learn and progress for the future. So, you guys should really come down to Nankervis Performance, especially if you have an engine that needs to be rebuilt or looked at, or if you just want to buy some parts. Thanks, guys. When did you decide to transition from the XLs into the Toyota D6s?
It was funny enough in that same year, about 2 months after I did my very first race in the XL, we knew a person around down in Mount Barker who had a car for sale, and we looked at buying that because we knew that was where we wanted to go. The XL was sort of a side thing that we did really quickly to get me on the track. And then when we got into the 86, straight away, my first race meeting was at Bathurst, and that was an eye opener to say the least. I was pretty nervous, and it's a big step up to a national category with all the TV cameras and everything that goes on about a supercars race meeting.
Mm.
So once again, it happened really, really quickly within the space of a couple months and thrown straight in the deep end. But I wouldn't change it at all.
I was just about to ask that we'll mention that you got the drive at Bathurst. Is it a track that you've always wanted to race at?
Bathurst is the holy grail of motorsport in Australia, right? It's something you grow up watching supercars on TV, and you look at that. One day you want to do that, but I don't think I ever sort of sat there knowing that I could do it one day, but I always hoped that maybe I could. And then before you know it, I was on the track in the 86 at Bathurst. That was a pinch myself moment that weekend. The first lap across the top of the mountain, your stomachs. Oh, I got quite sick, to be honest. The first time I drove around there, with the roller coaster effect, your stomach sort of rises up, and it's something you'll never experience at any other racetrack. It's really crazy.
What was it like for you to drive Aussie racing cars? Because they're pretty insane. And my last guest was Lachlan Wood, who currently drives them.
Lachlan, yep.
Yeah, they're absolutely insane. So,
Yep.
What do you think of them?
Probably the most enjoyable class I've raced. Funny story, Scott Taylor rang me only a week before Bathurst, and he said, "Do you want to race Bathurst in an Aussie car?" And I said, one, I've never been to Bathurst, and two, I've never driven an Aussie car. So I got to the point where practice one, I didn't even know how to turn it on. So it was pretty daunting, I'll be honest. But at the end of Bathurst, the first round, we were fighting for first. And out of that, we were able to, Scotty said, "Okay, you've done really well. Do you want to do Phillip Isle in the next round? But the only thing is, if you win, I get the trophy." So that was the only stipulation. And we won that round.
So then you moved to Super 2. What was that like for you?
It was good. So we started Super 3 at the start of 2019, and we had a really good Bathurst was round one, and I think we polled it by 1.5 seconds or something like that. And And that was, we spent a lot of money on that car that year to be able to build it up. And essentially because of that effort from us and winning that round, we got a phone call from a gentleman asking to buy that car. And because we were P1 in the championship, we essentially sold it for a bit of a premium, which allowed us to move into Super 2.
We all know that Bathurst is an iconic track to most people. I don't think you wouldn't be a racer if you didn't want to drive around it. I can only imagine the amount of times you've driven the track, and you've probably lost count. But what did it really mean to you when you won in 1994 with Dick Johnson?
Oh, well, it's, you know, winning anything is a great thrill. You know, like I was brought up by my dad not to get too carried away. Like I don't climb fences like what's the guy in the Indy cars that does when he wins Indy? You know, he climbs up the fence and all that like a monkey. Well, I don't do that. So I try and keep my emotions, you know, under control. But it was terrific because you're part of a team of probably 20 people, you know, and they all put in a massive effort, and to be able to get across the line first was, you know, fantastic. It was really, really special. It was, you know, and Dick and I were friends. We're still friends. You know, we had a few moments when I left when he didn't like me much, and, you know, so, but we're friends. We're buddies. In fact, I was texting him tonight. So, you know, it's just, but, you know, Bathurst probably in my life has probably been the best career win that I've experienced. But, you know, I've won quite a lot of other races. And at the time, you just think, oh, well, that's, you know, I thought we should have won Bathurst, you know, the times we did win. And we came second probably 5 or 6 times. So we could have won heaps of times, but we didn't. We won twice. So, you know, I now am much more appreciative of it than I was back then. Because when you're in the moment, you just, in a few weeks' time, you go and race again somewhere else, and it's a different track and a different set of circumstances. So you just get on with it. But I look back now and I think, thank goodness that I won that race, because Glenn Seaton has never won it. And I'm friends with Glenn Seaton now, but back in the day, we were mega competitors. So, you know, I'm very fond of him now, but, you know, he didn't win. He led but he didn't win. So I'm glad I did. At least I can go to my grave and think at least I won Bathurst.
And where did you start off racing in the Toyota 86? Do you remember your first race?
Yeah, it was at Bathurst at the end of the year, which was awesome, you know, a whole week of just being at Bathurst. I mean, we only had a session a day, but it was just awesome. Like, I'd never been to Bathurst in my life, but to also go and drive there was just awesome, and watch the 1000 was seriously cool.
It would have been very difficult to adjust to a new car on a new track. So you've definitely kept it out. You kept it out of the wall, so that's a good thing. And
you've been to Bathurst before, so what were you driving and what was the race?
So I went to Bathurst at the start of this year to race Bathurst 6 Hour. I raced with my cousin Ben. So obviously it's an 6 hour endurance race. They're production cars, so they're a day-to-day road car turned into a race car. There's some pretty high spec ones, BMW M3s, M4s, things like that. We raced in Class D, which was one of the lower classes, but it was one of the most competitive classes too. Yeah, so it was an awesome experience. I mean, going to Bathurst has always been a massive dream of mine, and you know, being able to take that first lap around there is pretty cool.
You and Ben obviously did a 6 hour. Did you both go 3 and 3 hours, or was there sort of a time limit of how long you could be in there for?
So there was a time limit on how long you could run one driver, or run each driver. I ran for about 2 and a bit hours at one stage in the car in one stint. That was a pretty long stint. It was pretty warm. The one positive was there was lots of safety cars, so you sort of always got a break within about 10 laps, you know. stop and there'd be a safety car and you'd get a break and you go around, you put your windows down and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely the longest stint I've ever done in a race car, and it got, you know, quite warm coming out of a Formula Ford where it was open wheeler. You know, the wind was, you know, going across the top here into a saloon car or sedan, and you know, no aircon or anything. And it was like a 30-degree day, so you know, it gets quite warm.
Yeah, Bathurst is known to get quite warm and very hard on the drivers. Was your car lucky enough to run all perfectly the whole time, or did you have a couple issues?
So we were pretty lucky in the race, although leading up to the race through practice and qualifying, we broke a gearbox, so we had to put a new gearbox in the car, and it broke the steering rack, so we had to put a new steering rack in the car. That was a massive mission. The boys were up to about 3 o'clock on Saturday night fixing up the steering rack. We had to get a complete car from Nowra to come up to Bathurst, and to fit the whole steering rack from that car straight into our race car to have it ready for Sunday. So that was a pretty big achievement that the boys did on Saturday night. But throughout the Sunday race, luckily the car ran faultlessly, so it was really good.
Good to hear, and you guys obviously worked hard and it paid off, because I guess finishing a Bathurst race is almost as good as winning it in a sense.
Races in that, which is just a single driver. And then once I did 6 months in that, I got an opportunity for Mark Cars in 2020 to race the Bathurst 12 hour in what's called a Mark II car, which is actually almost a Mustang body, but it's got a 5.2 litre V8 Coyote, left-hand drive, paddle shift. It's almost a GT3 car.
And you said you did the Bathurst 12 hour. How did you go in that, and what was it like driving on an iconic Australian track for the first time?
Bathurst is amazing. It's definitely one of the best tracks I've ever driven. It just tests you as a driver, just more than any other place I know. So yeah, it was awesome. We actually were on the podium at the end of the race, which was insane. For me, I was 16 at that stage, so I was very happy with our effort. I had Warren Luff in my team, and he was one of our co-drivers. So he was teaching me all the way through the weekend on what to improve on. And I couldn't have thanked the guys at My Cars anymore, because it was just an awesome experience. I drove for 3 hours out of the race, and it's awesome. You know, you're driving around Lamborghinis and Bentleys, and these guys are going flat out. I'm going flat out, and definitely one of the coolest weekends I've ever done.
In Formula Ford, I'm guessing you would have raced against Tom Sargent, who is also another Formula Ford racer still currently. And is it true that you did a Bathurst 6 hour with him in a Toyota 86?
Yeah, that's right. Tommy and I raced Formula Ford together in the same team since 2018 when Tommy jumped into Formula Ford, and he's been a really great teammate of mine for pretty much my whole career nearly now. We both raced in a bit of the National Series in 2018 and 2019 as well, and we've done the 6 hour together twice now with the CHE racing team in a Toyota 86, once in 2019 and the second time in 2021, and the last one being more memorable, being able to win our class, placing 15th outright of 60 cars, which was a huge achievement at Bathurst earlier in the year, and that was a very, very cool experience, and running that with Tom and the CHE team was a dream.
That would be awesome, winning at Bathurst, even if it's a 6 hour in a Toyota 86. And you said you were 15th out of 60. That's a big achievement, and that's for sure. And it's definitely a bucket list track that I'd love to race on one day, not just the sim. So as you were prepping the car, your first round was at Bathurst the weekend that just passed. So what's the hardest part of the Bathurst layout, and how did it feel the first time you drove around there?
Yeah, so it was very, 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 very exciting to first drive around there. I think the biggest thing for me was obviously Bathurst is a very intimidating place, and there's a lot of a lot of elevation changes, and there's a lot of walls as well to get used to. I'm not used to the walls being so close. So that took some time to get used to. We actually went there in November for an event called Challenge Bathurst in the 86, where we get people like you and me can take their car. They close the track off for people like you and me who can go and just have a burn around Bathurst. And so we did 2 days of that to get a bit of practice in for the first round. And it's such a fun track, and it's amazing how quick you can go through some of those corners in the 86, and it's good fun.
So you would imagine it's like pretty cool to drive around Bathurst with those cars going as quick as they do, driving right up against the wall. Did you learn a lot from the weekend?
Yeah, I learned heaps. Like Bathurst is a place where you just need to go and drive it to learn. There's nothing that beats that really. So yeah, I've learned heaps, and I'm looking forward to going back there later this year for the final round of the 86 series.
I can imagine you've seen many Bathurst coming from a family of absolute legends. So, what was your favourite memory from watching it?
I think some of the early Bathursts, both Granddad and Dad won, I didn't remember so much. But I think the favourite for me was probably in 2018, just because both me and my sister Priya, we were both there to witness the great win, and that was something. And it was also Dad and Craig's last Bathurst together, so that was pretty cool to witness. And that's something that I'll definitely never forget.
Look, at that time, I will admit I was supporting the Fords, but to see your dad, the nicest guys I've ever met, win that race was so great to see. Would you like to do the Bathurst 1000 with your dad one day?
Look, definitely. If the opportunity was there, absolutely. I don't know how Dad will go, but look, it'd be an awesome feeling to drive with your dad, and both my grandpa and dad, they've both driven for each other and are driven with each other. Sorry. So that'd be pretty cool, I reckon.
You started taking photos, and how did you progress into motorsport photography?
I started in the early 2000s. I think a friend was upgrading his gear, so I bought his digital camera, and I just started enjoying it from the spectator side of the fence. And I was part of a place called V8 Central, which is an online motorsport forum, and I would share my photos the week after the race of the different categories, and eventually I sort of became a kind of Victorian correspondent, sort of with little comments about the different races from the weekend. And at the time, the owner of V8 Central was working as an accredited photographer, and he gave me the opportunity to join him one day trackside. And so my first event was actually at the Bathurst 12 hour. I think it was 08 or 09. So that was a big baptism of fire for that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so you did the Bathurst 12 hour in 2008, and then you got noticed after you captured Fabian Coulthard's big crash in 2010 at the 1000. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, that was probably the first time in a long time that I actually sat down and watched a race. I'd gone down to the chase and after I got the crash that morning, I went down and I was went back to the pits and spoke with Fabian's team to see if anyone from the team wanted to have a look. And they went and actually got the Holden Motorsport media manager at the time, Gerald, who I'm very, very thankful to meet, and I'm still in contact with him. We're 12 years later now. and Gerald looked after me and helped me out with the media side, because as somebody new into the scene, I really had no contacts whatsoever. So he was of great benefit to me to look after me. And after that sort of things really started to take off, and I got a bit of a nickname as Crash Magnet, because I always seem to be in the right spot when something goes wrong. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so how far away from the crash were you? Were you right at the fence, or were you sort of further back near the hotel?
Well, I was outside the chase for that one. So you're probably pretty close, I think, to the left hand coming out. So I had the long range lens on at that time. So I actually saw Fabian as he started to slide off the road, and followed it the whole way through. And my camera actually died right at the end of that. The shutter broke. So I didn't actually get him on his final landing back onto four wheels. No shots of him at all getting out of the car and walking away or anything, because the camera had died. So after it all finished, I just went up to the top of the mountain and sat with friends and enjoyed watching the race.
Yeah, so do you do many tracks on it, or track days or anything like that, or do you just take it out for fun sometimes?
I've only done the one track day. I took it. Look, Bathurst was always a bucket list in that car, and just to leave pit lane, go up Mountain Straight, and just hear that flat 6 4 litre 9,000 RPM is just something that will sit with me every day. Really just blessed, and going into the cutting, sort of going over the top, hitting the grate. I just can't explain how good that car is for a road version, and drive it home. How is it even possible, man? So look, it's a glorious car to look at. Like I said, a lot of emotions tied up in that car. From the way I spec'd it, how it got delivered, how it performs on track. It just ticks all the boxes for me. That's why I love the GT3 RS, and will continue to love that car, because it's naturally aspirated, no turbos, race car, but road registered.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. To 2013 and 2014, you came third in the Liquid Moly Bathurst 12 hour in Class I and Class E. What's the difference between them?
Class E was, I think it was the first year that the original 12 hour was a production car race. As I said, I got into circuit racing to run my Rally Evo in the 12 hour. I never actually ended up doing that. But I jumped into BMW Class E car, so it's a slower BMW in the first year when we had the GT there. So that was rather interesting, sitting there drinking your cups of tea whilst the Mercedes and all the other GT cars are just boom, straight past you. They sounded great. Sometimes they scared you because you looked in the mirror, they weren't there, and then they were. Yeah, that was the last time I did a production car in that race, because after that I was like, there's no point in just being an auto round. And then I had an opportunity to jump in the mark car. So the Class I is invitational, and that was the mark cars, which is like the mini supercars. And, they were fantastic. It was the first year they ran, so they were a little bit underdeveloped, didn't have a rear diffuser, didn't have any of their traction control or any of the stuff they've got now. But that was a proper race car. That's probably one of the most enjoyable cars I've ever driven.
Have you only raced in Australia, and what is your favourite track or tracks if you have more than one?
Yeah, no, I have only raced in Australia. We've got some plans to go overseas over the next couple of years, COVID depending obviously with what plays out there. But best track for me is Bathurst. I've raced there a number of times now in the Australian production cars, and the Bathurst 6 hour. By far the best track I've ever raced on. But I certainly rate other tracks like the Bend, Phillip Island, and I don't mind places like Winton and say Lakeside, where they're really technical and small, but if you get things wrong, they bite you pretty hard. So, they're probably my favourite tracks.
What is your most memorable race or championship?
it's hard to say, but probably when we got on the podium at Bathurst in our first ever Bathurst 6 hour, that was pretty special.
The Bathurst 6 hour, what car, lasted the whole event?
Yep, so we were in a Toyota 86, which was a reliable little car, just went all day. You can basically punch out the same times over and over. And that was the key to us probably getting on the podium in that event. We were just able to stay nice and consistent, stayed out of trouble, played it smart, and you basically got to try and buy yourself a ticket to that last hour and get to the end. And if you do that, you'll be there or thereabouts. You can certainly get some great results there. But it's such a tough race. It's an unforgiving track, as people say, and it is. It's just a concrete canyon. And if you get it wrong, it bites really, really hard. But that's the beauty of the place. I absolutely love it. That's what it makes me, so excited to race there. It's just an amazing, special track. And you hear all the big guys talking about it when they race with the supercars, but they're not wrong. It's just an amazing place to go race a car at and go fast. So, yeah, but the key was we just stayed out of trouble and made sure we got to the end.
Yeah, I can't wait to go to Bathurst when I pass the minimum age requirement, because like you said, it is a very tricky track, so they don't let younglings like me on there. Not quite yet.
Not quite.